My name is Brian Patrick Holmes. I grew up in Clarksville, Pennsylvania, right behind Our Lady of Peace School.
My name is Cindy Holmes, and I grew up in Dunmore, Pennsylvania.
I went to Scranton Preparatory School, also known as Scranton Prep.
I loved high school. High school was a great time. Carefree, still no worries. Had lots of fun with my friends. Was a cheerleader.
I was the quarterback of the football team.
We couldn't stand each other to this day. He used to annoy me all during high school.
Was I cool?
Senior year, I just changed my mind, I guess.
Cindy and I went to high school together. She used to date a couple of my close friends.
And then I went to babysit with him at his sister's house, and that was, I guess, our first date.
Yeah, I went to the University of Scranton.
University of Scranton. Elementary ed.
Graduated with a BS in marketing.
And Brian, actually, he went to the U too. No, like Brian, no. I finished in 4.5, so 1 extra semester.
I was on the 6-year program at college. Some people call that a doctor.
He proposed on the 4th of July. We were at my sister's house, and we were hanging around on the swing set, and I turned around, and my nieces all walked out with a big banner that said, "Will you marry me?" So it was very nice. The whole family was involved. They were all in on it, and it was really cute.
I got to marry the captain of the cheerleading squad.
When I look back at high school, I really just, it's before, life got even a little bit tough.
We weren't planning on when Rosie was born. Just kind of happened. So at 11 weeks, Sin goes for an ultrasound, finds out. The doctor sees an ultrasound, says to Sin, hey, the baby has this thing called a cystic hygroma on its neck.
We had to wait a month until we had to go for further testing because the baby needed to grow so that they could follow things. So we had to wait a month.
You start hearing some of the things the doctors are telling you. It could be this, could be that. And you're thinking, boy, all right, this is pretty scary now.
There's nothing we could do but wait, and that was the toughest part, probably waiting that month.
We both needed to know what was going on here. It's funny, man. I'll never forget this. Coming home from work, I get a call. Hey, Mr. Holmes, this is Dr. So-and-so. I just want to let you know, the baby has Down syndrome. Immediately, I was like, cool. That's fine. Great. Yeah, because compared to what some of these other things that were going on, I'm thinking, this is nothing. All right, fantastic, great news. And legitimately, that's how I felt.
We were elated that, everything was going to be fine and that there weren't any issues as far as me losing the baby. Such a sigh of relief that let's march on and meet her.
We're up at our lake house up at Lake Carey right before she's born. And Sin starts getting her contractions. We come down here. I'm nervous, so I'm vacuuming the house. Man, Rosie came into the world on July 8th, 2005. We were both nervous because you're like, okay, we're both brand new parents.
When I was pregnant and reading everything, Down syndrome, when she was born, I don't look at her every time and see Down syndrome. I see my daughter.
Rosie was crawling around, but she was just getting a lot of bruises. Sin's motherly instincts just started to kick in a little bit.
A first-time mom, I didn't know if these bruises were normal for children who were rolling around and moving around. And also as a mother of a child with special needs, I didn't know if this was something that was typical of individuals with Down syndrome.
The bruising started to get a little bit worse. And I think one of Cindy's sisters somewhat noticed it, and she was a nurse at the time, and said, no, I think you should go get her checked. At that point, I started to get a little nervous. I think we need to go down to the ER tonight. Rosie gets blood work done to CBC. And we're there, boy, a long time. Longer than you should be for this.
We waited and waited and waited. Each minute, we became more and more concerned. Individuals with Down syndrome have a higher rate of leukemia. And I know Brian had kind of been looking some things up on the internet And I don't know if either one of us said it to each other, but it was going through both of our minds.
And I look out the window, and I could see the doctor who had come in to talk to us just kind of, I want to say he was hesitating to come in. So he comes in and he says, her platelet count is really low. She has this, she has a large liver. And, we think she might have leukemia.
Prior to delivering us the news, he had already called Geisinger's Janet Weiss Children's Hospital.
So we go home, pack up a bag, have somebody take care of our dog, get in the car, drive out to Danville that night.
Don't really remember the ride at all driving down there, but we got her there and we ran up to the oncology floor. The doctor was called in the middle of the night, the oncologist, the pediatric oncologist, and she was diagnosed within 24 hours of AML, a form of leukemia.
How can this be? And I can't take it. I can't do anything to help her.
They were excellent. They were very informative. They were very upbeat from the start. They explained the treatment and they explained her prognosis. And then we started to battle the beast. It really is the first time in my life that I felt like I had no control. This cancer could take your child away from you, and we only knew her for 13 months, so that was very frightening.
And I talked to my dad, and I just remember having that conversation with my dad in the atrium of the Janet Weiss Children's Hospital, and he said to me, as my dad always could say, you know what, all right, take your heels, dig them in the dirt, put your chin strap on, and get ready for a fight.
Blood work required her to have a blood transfusion or a platelet transfusion. We would drive back down to Geisinger, and they would give her a transfusion.
Sure, listen, the treatment was tough. There's no doubt. I lived at the hospital. Out of those 7 months, I was probably there 3 months. I had a sister who was a nurse who would come out and stay with me. Some of Cindy's sisters would come out and stay with me. I really got a lot of help.
And this went on for August, September, October, November, and December. And then she had 2 very strong rounds in January and February. Her last round was the toughest round. The doctor came in and he was explaining that this round is so intense that sometimes they send kids to heaven for this round.
In the midst of going through chemo treatment, our son's born.
People always said, how did you have a baby? Well, you had another baby undergoing chemotherapy, but he was just a silver lining. It took our minds off of platelets and blood counts. And, we had just typical family moments where we brought home a new baby and Rosie was there all excited. And, we started our lives because kids are so resilient. You would never even know that she was battling cancer. We wanted Rosie to have a sibling as soon as possible. He was great as far as speech development, and the 2 of them were like 2 peas in a pod, and he kept her moving and reaching her goals. And he didn't even realize how much of a teacher he was from such a young age.
That March 8th is a big date for us because it's her end of treatment date.
March 8th was the final check on her bone marrow, and then, we got the official word of remission.
I remember going. We dressed Rosie in all this green stuff because obviously St. Patty's Day was coming up. We went out. She had this little Irish cap on. We were strolling down, and then we got done with her chemo on March 8th. We got a cake and stuff with her nurses at Danville and the doctors. Those doctors and nurses, we lived with them for seven months, and they were part of our family. I mean, they saved our daughter's life. I don't know what else to say, but they saved our daughter's life.
We were elated that she was finished with her chemo and in remission, but then, we had some months where we were paranoid, any little bruise, we were calling her oncologist, but we got through it.
Man, those first couple of times when you're going back after she finished her chemo, they were some tough times too, because you're wondering, oh God, is this going to come back? You know, you don't know.
For her sake, we try not to worry every single day about leukemia. There's a lot of other things in this world to worry about, but we try not to focus on the leukemia.
Doctors kept telling us, she's fine, she's doing great. And you know what? You learn to trust them. And you're talking about kids with cancer too. I mean, it's just, man, it's the worst thing. I think it's one of the worst things ever. It really is. Kids with cancer. I was happy to be a face of this. I really was, because of how well Rosie's doing now. She's doing fantastic. She's a first grader at South Ave. She plays t-ball with her brother Brady. She loves her dogs. She loves her cat. Yeah, I mean, she's awesome, and she's doing great. What better way to get involved than to let Rosie be the face of this whole campaign? And what a great face it is to be able to do that.
All of those things that we had to go through, and those treatments and those words that were told us by the doctors were necessary to save her life. Maybe a child who didn't have the same prognosis back in 1985 donated bone marrow could have directly affected my life right now. We gave her bone marrow because we knew maybe her bone marrow will change treatment in 20 years for someone else.
You really don't appreciate the type of area we come from until you go through something like this. And it puts it in perspective, because when something happens to a family like it did to us, there were people that we didn't know come out of the woodwork to help us.
When you have a child that's diagnosed with cancer, you come to the realization that it could be anyone. It could be you. It could be your 13-month-old.
There was one message to go that I could give people. Don't take any minute for granted with your kids, ever. You know what? You want to go out, they want to go out. Hey, Dad, let's throw the ball. Or let's, go for a walk. Man, do it. You do it.
It was quite a ride. So we've taken a step back for the past few years and just are so thankful that Rosie's healthy and that we have 2 amazing children. And we're just enjoying that time.
7 years later, you can look back on that and you say, it's pretty cool.
As a parent, I can't describe to anyone what it feels like to have a child with cancer. But I do know that when you have a little girl that's that brave, she inspires us all.